Hi, my name is Flora, and today I'll be talking to you about the effect of vitamin E on learning and memory in chronically stressed rats. The way that I want you to have a think about this is imagine learning and memory in the center of what I'm talking about. And the reason for that is because learning and memory forms the basis of everything that we do. However, there are some things that can actually impair the normal learning and memory, for example, chronic stress. Now, chronic stress can impair learning and memory in areas of the brain, including the hippocampus, amygdala, and the prefrontal cortex. It's also been found, though, that something called the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, also known as BDNF, if we reduce it, it can actually improve that impaired learning and memory that chronic stress causes. So BDNF is a neurotrophin involved in neuroplasticity, including learning and memory. And what Bug-Cheggy actually found was that the way that we can actually reduce BDNF in our brains is through vitamin E. So Bug-Cheggy measured the effect of vitamin E on learning and memory impairments in juvenile hypothyroid rats and actually found two things. One of it being that vitamin E is an effective treatment for impaired learning and memory, and that it shows that vitamin E actually acts on BDNF. So in this study, learning and memory was measured using the Morris water maze. So that's where you get a cylindrical tank, you fill it up with water, you cut this cylindrical tank into quarters. So you have a northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest quadrant. And then you have a platform that you can take in and out, and you place it into the northwest quadrant. So in the study also, there were multiple extra maze cues just placed around the laboratory that actually guided the rats into locating where the platform was. The rats underwent 4 days of training, and the test was conducted on day 5. During that test, the platform was actually removed, and the time that taken for the rats to locate the platform, as well as the distance to locate it, was measured. From the results, what Bug-Cheggy actually found was that the rats that were in the vitamin E treatment group actually spent less time and less distance locating that platform compared to the rats who did not receive any of that vitamin E treatment. And what this is telling us is that vitamin E actually improved their learning and memory. However, there haven't been any single study that have actually measured the effect of vitamin E on learning and memory in chronically stressed rats. So this takes us to our current study, and given the evidence that vitamin E acts on BDNF and thus can impair given the evidence that vitamin E acts on BDNF and that chronic stress can impair learning and memory, I wanted to test what are the effects of vitamin E on learning and memory in chronically stressed rats. And the hypothesis is that the time and distance will be shorter in chronically stressed rats for the rats who received the vitamin E treatment compared to the rats who did not receive any treatment at all. So this is a mixed subjects design, and what I'm measuring is the time and distance taken to locate that platform. Remember, it's a quadrant. The platform is located in the upper, in this quadrant right here. So that's the northwest. And then the independent variable is the vitamin E. So similar to the Bug-Cheggy study that we looked at earlier, it will be 20 milligrams per kilograms IP. So there will be 16 male rats, and they will be randomly allocated into 2 groups. So either in the the vitamin E condition group, or the control group. And all of these rats were caged in 4s. So the way that the procedure works is it's visually represented in this diagram right here. So in this first picture, it shows the induction of chronic stress. And this is done through something called the intruder method. So on week 1, rats will remain in that same cage that they were initially to establish social hierarchy. However, between weeks 2 to 7, 2 of these rats will be switched randomly from one cage to another on a daily basis to generate chronic stress. And the intruder method increases plasma levels of corticosterone and blood pressure, which are similar physiological changes in our in human bodies who experience depression and anxiety symptoms. So after they go through those 7 weeks of chronic stress, have a look at this picture in the middle here. So the rats that have been allocated into the vitamin E treatment group will receive daily injections of the vitamin E. The control group will receive nothing at all. And then after these 7 weeks of vitamin E treatment, all of these rats will now go into the Morris water maze test here. So the Morris water maze test will be similar to what I described earlier. The cylindrical tank that we're using will be 150 centimeters high, filled with 125 milliliters of water, and that platform that I'll be using to take in and out will be 25 centimeters high. So all of these rats will now go through 5 days of acquisition training. The first day, familiarization session, is where the rats will just be placed into the maze. There will be no platform at all, and they're just placed in there for 30 seconds just to swim around, explore what the maze looks like. And then during day 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's when the platform will actually be placed back in. And then they will be given 60 seconds to locate that platform. And the time and distance will be measured using a video camera that will just be placed above the tank. So yes, they're given 60 seconds, and if they don't reach it in those 60 seconds, we record that down as just being 60 seconds, but the experimenter will actually use their hand and guide the rats to where the platform is. So 24 hours after the day 4, a protest will start, and that's when the platform will be removed again. And similar thing to during the acquisition stage. So we're measuring the time and distance to locate that where the platform was originally, 60 seconds again, and the time and distance spent to reach where that northwest quadrant will be compared against those two groups. So here are the results that I'm expecting to find, and it will be in line with the hypothesis. So the hypothesis, remember, is the time and distance will be shorter in chronically stressed rats who received the vitamin E treatment compared to the rats who did not at all. So that's what this first graph is showing here. The darker bars are the vitamin E treatment, the lighter bars are the control group. And on each of these days, you can see that the trend is that as they get more familiar with the actual apparatus, they're actually spending less and less time to locate that platform. But what we're also seeing is, just comparing both of those groups, the control and vitamin E, the vitamin E group spent less time locating the platform compared to the control group. Similar with the distance here. So as they spend more time becoming familiar with the apparatus, they're taking less distance to reach that platform. And also the rats who received the vitamin E treatment actually performed better. So they used a shorter route to reach the distance. And the reason that these results are so significant is because, remember, that there have been no single study that have actually measured the effect of vitamin E on learning and memory in chronically stressed rats. So these are novel results, and these actually build upon the current literature of vitamin E's role in learning and memory when experiencing chronic stress. A practical implication of this is vitamin E could be a potential treatment for disorders including anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder, which are two disorders that where individuals experience high levels of stress. So just looking at the future studies, I propose that in future studies, experimenters should explore the specific effect that vitamin E has on BDNF in chronically stressed rats to actually deepen the understanding of how learning and memory can be improved. And this can be done through a control group. So without the induction of stress, without the vitamin E treatment. And this will actually help us identify the significant difference between the control group and the vitamin E group in this present study right here. So in conclusion, the results that we found actually identify that the average time taken and the distance traveled for chronically stressed rats can be improved by vitamin E. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that was interesting and you learned something from that. Thank you.